I am a scientific skeptic. This does not mean that I am skeptical of science, but that I evaluate claims using scientific methodology and tend to reject claims for which there is little scientific evidence. More generally, you might say that I simply try to exercise my critical thinking skills to their fullest extent. Something that skeptics in general, and often myself in particular, get accused of is being closed-minded. Usually, the accuser is a believer in some form of pseudoscience or is extremely emotionally attached to their pet beliefs. There is a certain irony in this, since it is a skeptic who is perhaps the most open-minded of all individuals, and the true believer who typifies an intellectual rigidity. Open-minded means different things to different people. In fact, the way some people use the word, you could define it akin to faith. That is, the acceptance of claims without sufficient scientific evidence. When I am accused of being closed-minded, the subtext is that I have rejected a claim without giving it proper consideration. A priori rejection of a claim is anathema to scientific skepticism. Rather, it is a hallmark of most pseudosciences. A scientific skeptic remains fairly fluid in which claims they support. Judgments are not final and always depend on current scientific evidence. This last bit is crucial, and it's what makes a scientific skeptic truly open-minded. If high-caliber, insurmountable scientific evidence is gathered that contradicts a particular belief of a skeptic, they cannot in good faith retain that belief. Compare this a bit with the type of person who typically accuses a skeptic of being closed-minded. These people usually have piss-poor evidence supporting their claims. The evidence is often not even scientific and amounts to nothing more than a handful of anecdotes or anomaly hunting. Evidence of this caliber is utterly unconvincing, and at best serves as a starting place for further investigation. An extraordinary claim with little or no corroborating scientific evidence is not a claim tenable by any intellectually honest person. At best, you might suspect such a claim is true, but should be entirely open to the possibility that you are wrong. Moreover, the accusers typically will discount quality evidence that contradicts their worldview. A skeptic tries their best to avoid this. If the evidence is good, you cannot discount it, and you should incorporate it into your beliefs and worldview. We run into an essential problem, though, once we start talking about quality evidence. Most people with pseudoscientific worldviews tend to have little grasp of what constitutes quality scientific evidence. They feel justified in calling me and other skeptics closed-minded because to them, a personal anecdote is just as valuable as a double-blind, multi-regional clinical trial. Since there is often a preponderance of anecdotes or crap evidence supporting a claim, they feel that a skeptic is clinging to just a handful of studies in order to support their rejection of a pseudoscientific claim. In a sense, their indignation is very akin to what a skeptic feels. The problem is that there is a difference in the quality of evidence. This fact is often lost on the general public, who tends to feel that a single, unblind, preliminary study is just as good as a whole trend in the scientific literature. The standards of evidence aside, most skeptics, and myself included, tend to actually find certain aspects of pseudoscience pretty cool. For instance, I would be overjoyed if something like telepathy turned out to be a genuine phenomenon, or if aliens had been visiting us for thousands of years. I have no philosophical reservations against most pseudosciences, in that they are not necessarily incompatible with my worldview. I, like most scientific skeptics, accept reality without qualifications. Compare this with most people who buy into pseudoscience. For whatever reason, they find it necessary to require that the universe behave to some arbitrary specification. There's a bit more to this story. Often, even the best skeptics can come off as if they reject a claim a priori. This is because most pseudoscience is highly unoriginal. If you take two seemingly disparate pseudosciences, you can probably find quite a bit of similarities. Typically, the pseudoscience requires a mechanism that contradicts something fundamental in the current scientific theory. Typically, there is some sort of conspiracy to suppress the evidence. So a skeptic hears a claim about some new pseudoscience, and a bunch of red flags go off. They have heard this tale before, probably countless times, but with different jargon. So the skeptic probably dismisses it, or at least does not give it due time in the eyes of the true believer. It's unfortunate that most purveyors of pseudoscience are true believers. To them, evidence that contradicts their worldview is only evidence for a conspiracy. They have little understanding of how to evaluate scientific evidence. For these people, I do not think that there is really any hope. But I do believe that any honest person who has sat down and taught how to critically evaluate claims and scientific evidence will quite naturally become a scientific skeptic. Once you can distinguish poor evidence, how could you not feel like a complete tool for clinging to an idea that only has subpar evidence to support it? Intellectual rigidity is a hallmark of being closed-minded. Conversely, the skeptic is the epitome of intellectual fluidity.
Somebody